Hello guys, welcome to Servlet Tutorial. Today we shall see one new topic, that is Servlet Filter. The question is, what is filter or what is the Servlet Filter? So let me explain the Servlet Filter is. The Servlet Filter is a special web resource program of Java web application that traps the request and response of other web resource programs of Java web application. So whenever there is a need, whenever there is a task or work to trap the request coming to your Java web application of the specific web resource programs, then I can use Servlet filters. So Servlet program or Servlet filter program can execute pre-request processing logic as well as post-response generation logic for the request and response respectively by trapping the both. So means that Servlet filter program can execute pre-request processing logic by trapping the request coming to web resource program of the Java web applications, and also it can execute the Servlet request, the Servlet filter program post response generation logic by trapping the response. So when to use Servlet filter? So whenever a web developer or the Java web application developer want to provide an additional functionality in the Java web application without modifying the source code of existing web application, then we can take the support of filters in Java web applications. Means I don't want to modify the existing source code, but also I want to trap the request coming to my web resource program and before response going to the client or to the browser window. In those trapping cases, I can able to use a Servlet filter. Let us see one pictorial representation diagram, and in this diagram you will come to know what the need. If you observe here, first of all, let me remove this Servlet filter and you will come to know. So Control X. This is simple web application. A test app is a web application which is deployed in a web server, or you can call application server. And in the test app web application contains TestSrv program. Whenever the browser gives a request in normal flow of execution, first of all, let me go for case 1. When in the normal flow of execution, browser window gives a request to the web resource program of, that is TestSrv Servlet program of test app web application, then first of all the request will be trapped by web server. And sends that request to the appropriate web resource program. Suppose in my case, the normal flow of execution, for the normal flow of execution, I'm using here my web resource program is TestSrv. Then TestSrv will execute what the logic we have written and sends the response to the browser window. So this is one case. This is case 1. Okay. So I'm showing here demo picture. This is the normal flow of execution for any Java web application. So this is the response. Okay, boss. Fine. So this is the normal flow of execution. So if you look at here, if I give the names to this, so this is my response. Sorry, this is my request. Request has been trapped by web server, sends to the appropriate web resource programs. Web resource program, that is TestSrv1, will trap that request, execute the business logic. What are the business logic which is available in a TestSrv program, Servlet program of test app web applications, and sends the response. So here you can go for, suppose this you can call here response. Okay, this is request and this is the response. Okay, fine. But what I want to do, what are the requests coming to my TestSrv web resource program? I want to trap. In that case, I need to use one Servlet filter. So I will keep my Servlet filter here. Okay, boss. So this is my Servlet filter. So whenever I want to trap the request, request coming to my TestSrv and before response sending to the browser window, then you can use a Servlet filter. So this is a Servlet filter I deployed here. I have added one Servlet filter. Now how this flow of execution works here? So before request coming to the here, so this request has been trapped by Servlet filter. Servlet filter first of all trap this request. So in this case, Servlet filter will trap that request. What is the logic you have mentioned in Servlet filter will execute and will send the request to the appropriate web resource program. Similarly, before response going to browser window, Servlet filter traps that response, execute post response generation logic, and send the response to browser window. Okay guys, so this is the flow of execution. So let me go for the numbers. So in my case, let me use some different colors. So this is 1. So let me use the numbers to understand the flow of execution. 1. So here browser window gives the request to a web application, right? Browser window gives the request to TestSrv Servlet program of test app web application, which is deployed in the web server or application server. Then let me go for second step. So here is my second. This is my second. So this request will be trapped by Servlet filter. So Servlet filter will trap that request. So this is second and third step. Okay. So in second and third step, filter traps the request and executes pre-request processing logic. Then here is fourth step and here is fifth step. So here is my fifth step. Okay. So in the fourth and fifth step, Servlet filter passes the request to TestSrv program, and this TestSrv program executes main request processing logic of your web application. Then if I go for next, so here is my sixth step. Here is my sixth step, and here is the seventh step. Sixth step and seventh step. Then TestSrv Servlet program generates the response. This TestSrv Servlet program generates the response. So this is the response. This line indicates, this brown color line indicates response. Generate the response and generate response to browser window. This response will be trapped by Servlet filter in step number 6 and step number 7 will be trapped by Servlet filter, and also execute post response generation logic, and in the 8th step, this is my 8th step, not 7. In the 8th step, filter program sends the final response. To browser window. Okay guys, so let me repeat once again. In this step 1, I am repeating once again guys, please focus. So browser window gives the request to TestSrv Servlet program of test app web application. Then step 2 and 3. This step 2 and 3 of Servlet filter. The Servlet filter traps that request and executes pre-request processing logic. Then in step 4 and 5, Servlet filter passes the request. In step 4, Servlet filter passes the request to TestSrv Servlet program, and this TestSrv Servlet program executes request processing logic, main request processing logic. Let me go for 6th and 7th step. In the 6th and 7th step, this TestSrv Servlet program generates the response to browser window, and this response will be trapped by Servlet filter in 7th step. Servlet filter program, and also executes post response generation logic. Next, in the 8th step, the Servlet filter program sends the final response to browser window. Okay boss, so this flow of execution already I mentioned here. So understanding example diagram of Servlet filter. So here I mentioned here, browser window gives the request to TestSrv program. So let me keep it parallelly, so you will come to know. Okay guys, so scroll down with respect to this diagram, and let me open this diagram. Okay guys, so you can see both. Okay guys, so you can understand these diagrams also, and you can understand the flow of execution. Okay guys, so browser window gives the request to TestSrv program. In step 2 and 3, filter traps the request and executes pre-request processing logic. Then Servlet filter passes the request to TestSrv Servlet program, and this program executes main request processing logic. Then step 6th and 7th, Servlet program generates response to browser window. This response will be trapped by the 6th and 7th. This response will be trapped by the Servlet filter. So let me add here Servlet filter program, and also executes post response generation logic in step number 7. And at last step, the 8th step, filter program sends the final response to browser window. Sends the final response to browser window, guys. So this is the flow of execution with respect to this diagram. Okay, guys. So let us see one more node point. So how can I, the question might arise in your mind, we have added Servlet filter to my Java web application. So how can I link that Servlet filter to my Java web application? So to link Servlet filter with Servlet program, we need to take same URL pattern of Servlet program as a URL pattern of Servlet filter program. So if you observe this diagram, suppose if I configured SURL is the URL pattern of TestSrv, then I need to configure SURL is a URL pattern of Servlet filter program. Means SURL is a URL pattern of same for Servlet filter, as well as it should be same for TestSrv web resource program. Fine, boss. So let us see now some of the basic points about javax.servlet.servletFilter.